They have been very close friends until they quarreled. Divided into 3 parts, right? So one of your clue words is quarreled, simple past tense, 2 actions, right? Have been, again, present perfect tense, referring to a point in time now where the action started sometime. But here they're talking about an action that was completed or finished at some point in the past, right? Before something else happened. So have been, the present perfect, needs to change to past perfect. Because the action is not relevant to the current time right now, right? They're talking about an action at some point in the past before something else happened. So they had been very close friends. Error is in part 1 until they quarreled. That's it. The next one, the weatherman has forecast a generally cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm in some parts of the city. So some of us may think that, okay, first let me leave it to you. Do you think this question has an error first of all? This is part 1. Now it really depends on the context. Forecasted is something that we can use, we cannot use. It really depends on the context if you ask me. Because in most cases, right, forecast itself means what? It's a prediction, right? You're predicting the coming events, and it's usually about the weather conditions only. The weather forecast, that's the collocation, right? So just to give you let me put down a couple of examples, right? So if I say, Raj forecast good weather for the next 3 days. Right? In this context, again, I'm not saying Raj forecasted good weather, because forecast itself means he predicted what is going to happen in the next 3 days. Or if I say they forecast a defeat for the Prime Minister. Right? In this case, I wouldn't really say that part 1 has an error, which is still fine, because like I said, forecast takes up the past tense form. In the sense, you don't have to add an ed. So has forecast is no problem. With the weatherman, forecast or has forecast, has forecast only means present perfect tense, which means he's gone ahead and taken care of this a little earlier. With a generally cloudy sky. So basically what he's saying is, what do you mean by generally in this context? Anybody? Tell me the right meaning. What is, in the context, what does generally mean? So in the context, what he means is for the most part, right? He's saying mostly. That's what it means. So generally is fine as it is. You don't have to change. Normally, yeah, usually, yes, right, for the most part. So this is how it's going to be, a generally cloudy sky with, in fact, I would say the only place I feel could be an error is here in part 3. I will add the definite article here. The weatherman has forecast a generally cloudy sky with the possibility of rain or thunderstorm. So as a collocation, as a colloquial expression, so-and-so is saying so-and-so with this particular possibility, right? With the possibility of rain or thunderstorm. So the only error I see is in part 3. I don't have any other error. Add the definite article before possibility. That's about it. So the weatherman has forecast a generally cloudy sky with the possibility of rain or thunderstorm in some parts of the city. That's about it. Against his family's wishes, Rajesh plans to take up a job as a journalist. In the context, right? Here maybe they are referring to, the members of the family, right? So each and every member of Rajesh's family doesn't want him to do journalism, right? But in spite of that, he goes ahead and takes it. So that's why it says against his family wishes. So for me, depending on the context, if I assume that they are referring to each member of the family, then it becomes a plural subject and not a singular subject, right? In that case, then I have to change wishes, which is a singular verb, to a plural verb, wish. Okay, only in the sense if I assume that they are referring to each and every member of the family, which is a plural subject, then I will change wishes to wish. So this is how I would see it, right? When the family is in fact a collective noun, right? Collective nouns usually take up singular verbs. So in that case, I will say, hey, no error. However, just to give you a pointer, sometimes when I want to write this down. So when the individuals in the group, right, in this case the family or whatever collection you're talking about, right, if that is where the emphasis is. So if the emphasis is on the individuals in the group, right, then the plural verb is good to go. So that's what we're doing here, right? But American English, for sure, they would not even look at part 1 as an error, because for them, collective nouns take singular verbs, period. That's it. Because we follow the British English, right? A little more specific, you can have variations like this, where depending on the emphasis is, then it will change. So you can have my family are always fighting among themselves, right, where the emphasis is on each and every member of the family, right? But what we would ideally go with is my family is always fighting among themselves. Yeah. So then also you have the apostrophe S here, families. So either ways, like I said, I will skip this question, right? Because the error can be in one, or it can come up as no error, because Rajesh plans singular subject, singular verb, correct. Plans to, collocation is right, to take up a job as a journalist. Everything else is fine, right? So if the stress is on the individuals in the group, then the error is in part 1. If it is not, then there is yes. Yeah? Then you change wishes to wish. The Prime Minister announced that taxes will increase from the beginning of the next year. Okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts again. Which part has the error? So the Prime Minister announced, part 1 seems fine. He announced what? That taxes will increase from the beginning of the next year. So this is more like, either I can look at a couple of things here. There are 2 ways in which I can restructure this sentence actually. The Prime Minister announced that here, very obvious thing in part 2. The error is in part 2, yes, definitely. You need to add the definite article before taxes. And to just be in line with the general tense of the sentence, I would also change will to would. Not that it matters, but just to be on a more effective front. It's because would also kind of expresses a future result, right? And in the context, that's exactly what is happening. Taxes are going to increase from the beginning of the next year, right? So error is in part 2. I will do 2 things. I will insert the before taxes and I will also change will to would. Just to keep in line with the general tense of the sentence, the Prime Minister announced, simple past tense, the Prime Minister announced that the taxes would increase from the beginning of the next year. In terms of, I'm going with sentence construction in a way in how it sounds. But like I said, it's okay with will as well. No big deal. But either ways, the error is in part 2.